Most people will never admit this to themselves. The reason their life feels stuck isn't bad luck. It's not the economy or timing or the people around them. It's that their mind has never been tested. Not really. And a mind that's never been tested stays soft. And a soft mind breaks the second life gets hard. So here's the question you need to sit with for the next few minutes. Is your mind hardened or is it just untested? Think about the last time something genuinely difficult happened to you. Not inconvenient, difficult. A loss, a failure, a moment where the ground felt like it moved. What did you do? Did you meet it? Or did you look for the fastest way to make the discomfort stop? Most people spend their entire lives arranging their circumstances so they never have to answer that question honestly. And that avoidance has a price. It just doesn't get billed until later, usually at the worst possible moment when there's no more room to dodge it. Comfort feels like safety. That's the lie. Every warm bed, every easy day, every task you avoided because it felt uncomfortable. It wasn't neutral. It was a withdrawal. Comfort doesn't just fail to build you. It quietly drains what strength you already have. Athletes know this. Stop training and your body doesn't stay the same. It weakens. The mind works the same way. Every day you choose the easy path is a day your mental muscle atrophies a little more. And you don't feel it happening because decline is always silent. You only notice it the day life finally demands something from you. And you realize you have nothing left to give. Here's the trap inside that lie. Comfort doesn't feel like decline while it's happening. It feels like relief. It feels like you've earned a break, like you're finally getting some peace. And sometimes that's true. Rest has its place. But there's a difference between rest that restores you and comfort that replaces you. Rest gives you back to yourself sharper. Comfort, taken too often, quietly convinces you that softness is just who you are now. And by the time the next real test shows up, you don't even recognize how far you've drifted from the version of yourself that could have handled it. Here's what separates the people who fold under pressure from the people who don't. The ones who don't fold have learned to treat pain as information, not identity. When something goes wrong, a failure, a rejection, a mistake that costs you, your mind wants to turn that moment into a verdict on who you are. I failed becomes I am a failure. That single word swap is where most people's growth dies. But pain isn't a verdict, it's data. It's your nervous system flagging something that needs adjusting, nothing more. The people who harden their minds learn to strip the emotion out of failure and extract the lesson fast without letting it define them. That skill alone will take you further than talent ever will. Consider what this actually looks like in practice. Two people lose the same opportunity. One spends the next month replaying it, building a story about how they're not good enough, letting the failure bleed into everything else they touch. The other spends an hour, maybe a day, extracting exactly what went wrong, adjusting for it, and moving forward with the lesson but without the weight. Same event, two completely different trajectories. The difference wasn't talent and it wasn't luck. It was how quickly each of them stopped treating the failure as a mirror and started treating it as a map. Now let's kill a myth that keeps people stuck for years. Asterisk motivation. You've been told to wait until you feel motivated, until you feel ready, until the fire shows up. Here's the problem. Motivation is a mood, and moods are unreliable. It shows up when it wants and vanishes when you need it most. The people who actually build something don't wait for the feeling. They build the habit first, and the feeling follows later if it shows up at all. Discipline isn't the boring cousin of motivation. It's the only one of the two that's actually trustworthy. If you're waiting to feel like doing the hard thing before you do it, you'll be waiting for the rest of your life. This is uncomfortable to hear, but it needs to be said plainly. You are not going to feel like it. Not tomorrow, not next week, not once you finally get your schedule sorted out. The feeling of readiness is not a prerequisite for action. It's usually a byproduct of it. You don't think your way into a hardened mind. You act your way into one on the days you don't feel like it, especially on the days you don't feel like it, until the action itself becomes who you are instead of something you have to talk yourself into. The part nobody shows you is how quiet this work actually is. There's no crowd cheering while you wake up early for the fourth week straight with nothing to show for it yet. No one claps when you say no to the easy option for the 100th time in a row. This is the part of building a hardened mind that gets edited out of every highlight reel, the invisible stretch where you're doing the work and getting none of the reward. Most people quit here, not because the work is too hard, but because the silence feels like proof that it isn't working. It isn't proof of that. It's just what building looks like before anyone else can see it. Understand something about this silent stretch. It is deliberately filtering people out. It's not a flaw in the process. It is the process. If the reward showed up immediately, everyone would push through. The fact that it doesn't is exactly what makes the people who make it through different from everyone else. The silence isn't punishing you. It's sorting the people who were serious from the people who were just curious. Every person you've ever admired for their strength went through a version of this stretch that you never saw. Because by the time you met them, the results had already started to speak. Every person who has genuinely hardened their mind can point to one specific moment, a breaking point, where they almost didn't make it through. Not a bad day. A moment where the weight became so heavy that quitting stopped being a thought and started being a real option they seriously considered. What separates the people who come out the other side isn't that they didn't feel like breaking. They did. What separates them is a single decision made in that exact moment to take one more step before deciding anything permanent. That's it. That's the entire secret hiding behind every story of resilience you've ever admired. Not fearlessness. Just one more step, taken while afraid. It's worth being honest about what that moment actually feels like from the inside, because it rarely feels heroic. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like doubt so loud it drowns out everything else. It feels like the easiest, most reasonable thing in the world would be to stop. Nobody who has been through a real breaking point describes it as a moment of clarity and courage. They describe it as barely holding on and doing the next small thing anyway. That's the part the highlight reels get wrong. Resilience isn't a feeling of strength. It's a decision made in the complete absence of that feeling. After a breaking point, something strange happens. You have to rebuild who you thought you were, and you get to choose what goes back in. This is the part people miss. Going through hardship doesn't just test you, it hands you a blank page. The version of you that existed before the hard moment is gone either way. The only choice left is whether you rebuild something weaker or something sharper. The people who come out of hardship stronger aren't the ones who suffered more. They're the ones who used the reconstruction on purpose, who decided brick by brick what kind of person they were going to be on the other side of it. This rebuilding phase is where most of the real work happens, and it's rarely dramatic. It looks like small, deliberate decisions, choosing which old habits get left behind and which get carried forward, choosing which people stay close and which get some distance, choosing what you'll tolerate from yourself going forward and what you won't. None of this happens in one grand moment. It happens in 100 small ones, spread out over weeks and months, mostly invisible to everyone except you. But every one of those small decisions is a brick, and eventually the bricks become a structure that can hold weight the old version of you never could. Now here's the cost nobody talks about, the cost of staying soft. It's not dramatic. It's not a single moment of collapse. It's smaller than that, and it compounds. It's the respect you slowly lose from people who watch you avoid hard conversations. It's the opportunities that quietly pass you by because you weren't the person who could be counted on under pressure. It's the erosion of trust in your own word because you keep promising yourself things you don't follow through on. Softness doesn't announce itself as failure. It just makes your whole life smaller, one avoided difficulty at a time, until one day you look around and don't recognize how small your world has become. And here's the part that makes it worse. Softness is comfortable right up until it isn't. It feels fine for a long time. That's what makes it dangerous. There's no single day where staying soft blows up your life. There's just a slow narrowing of what you're capable of handling until a moment arrives that genuinely requires strength, and you find out in public, in front of the people who were counting on you, that it isn't there. That is the actual cost. Not a dramatic collapse, but an absence, revealed at the worst possible time. There's one more thing worth naming here, because it's easy to miss. The people around you will rarely be the ones to push you toward hardening your mind. Most of the world is organized around comfort, easier options, softer language, lower expectations, all sold to you as kindness. Some of that is genuine, but some of it is just other people's discomfort with watching you struggle, dressed up as concern. You have to be able to tell the difference between someone protecting you and someone protecting themselves from watching you grow. The hardening of your mind will, more often than not, have to be a decision you make alone. regardless of what anyone around you is comfortable with. So here's where this leaves you. The next hard moment is coming. It always does. Maybe it's already here. And when it arrives, you'll have exactly two options. Let it prove that you were right to stay soft, or let it become the moment your mind finally hardens into something that can't be shaken as easily next time. Nobody else can make that decision for you, and nobody's going to notice which one you pick except you. But you'll know. And 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll either be someone who used this moment or someone who let it use you. That choice is the only one that's ever really mattered.